Yeah.
If I gave you 26 seconds to complete something right now, what could you finish? You couldn't boil a kettle in that. That's how long it took for those 5 boys to completely change the course of my life and countless other people in the process.
If I could have gone back, I would have pushed him more. I definitely would have pushed him more. Even took the knife out of him. Do you know what I mean? Physically took it and stashed it, which I could have done. Do you know what I mean? I feel like I should have done. Looking back at the time, I think I had the opportunity to do, and he wouldn't have tried to take it back off me because he knew I would have been right. But obviously, I didn't think to do that at the time, unfortunately, which could have saved his life, unbeknown to me.
AJ was funny. He was a good lad, kind, generous, warm, liked to cook. He did like skateboarding. You know, by the time he died, he was still trying to find his feet on what he wanted to do, and we tried to send him off for a gap year to Amsterdam. You know, in Europe, just travel around Europe and stuff. But he met Shannon, so he kind of was like, no, I want to spend this time with my new girlfriend. It was nice to see him in what would have been a relationship, because Shannon was the first girl that he brought home and introduced me to.
I've been friends with him for about 7 to 8 years. From around the age of 11, I'd moved to Parktown, which is an area in town that I was new to. I didn't know anyone there, and Azaan was my first friend when I moved there. Yeah, I remember the first time I met him. I was walking past the park, and he saw me carrying a skateboard, and come up to me, start asking me questions about it, and just asked my name, who I was, and it was probably the first person that came up to me when I started living in those areas, which was quite a refreshing feeling.
At that time, his granddad died, and his granddad was the male role model in his life, which then affected school. And then he started to truant, and he got a little bit difficult at home. I think he was crying out for help. He was searching outside to fit in. A 28-year-old male ended up attacking my son. And it was a brutal attack. He ended up with 2 black eyes, a broken nose. The guy tried to stab him with a screwdriver. He dragged him out into the middle of the road and was continuously jumping on my son's head. And AJ changed after that. From what his girlfriend tells me, that he was actually scared to go out in Luton. So he very rarely went out, but Shannon told me that if he did go out, he carried a knife. You know, none of this I kind of knew.
He showed me the knife actually, and I strongly told him that is going to get you in trouble. He agreed, just like, Darren, yeah, I know, you're right, I know you're right, but I don't feel safe without it.
And when was that?
Probably 2 or 3 days before he was killed.
It's easy for people to focus on the fact that my son carried a knife, he got stabbed by somebody else carrying a knife, and he died. So they assume that that is when the event started and finished. But it's not, it goes way back further than that. And now I suppose I'll tell you about what happened. Shannon's grandfather had died. AJ was quite close to him. So AJ and Shannon went to the funeral. He woke me up about 8:30 by opening my door and saying, Mum, how do I look? I went, yeah, you look lovely. And he said, love you, see you later. And he and Shannon walked out of the door. At 5:30 that afternoon, I received a phone call from Shannon, screaming hysterically down the phone that AJ had been stabbed.
Police emergency.
Yeah, my boyfriend's been stabbed. Okay, whereabouts is this?
On Hartfield Road,
Okay, what's your boyfriend's name, please?
Azaan Taylor. We need someone to hurry up.
Yeah, we got him on the way to you, my love. Stay on the phone with me.
I'm screaming in the car, and I see the blue lights go past. They were on their way back from the funeral and walking into town. And a boy on a bike went past, and that boy happened to look at Shannon. He looked at her funny. AJ looked at him. The boy said, "What?" AJ said, "What?" And the boy threw his bike down, put his hands down his trousers and said, "It's on." AJ must have thought that he was going to pull out a knife, and he opened his jacket and showed the blades, the handle of his blade. That boy then got back on his bike and rode off, but he didn't know that that guy was part of a gang, and he called his gang members, and 3 minutes later they drove up behind Azaan, got out of the car, walked up and proceeded to punch him and stab him. We arrived at the scene. There was a helicopter, there was armed police, there was paramedics, there was people, and I could see AJ's feet sticking out between two parked cars, and I could see all these people crowding around him, and I ran to get to him, and a police lady blocked me, and I kept saying to her, "It's my son, I need to get there." And
yeah, the initial shock was hard to comprehend. To come to terms that was my friend that was in one of those tents, of course.
5:30 I got the phone call. 12:30 they're wheeling him up to intensive care. And they're calling him critically stable. The surgeon came and spoke to me, and he said, "I've done everything that I can do for AJ. Now he needs to fight." And I knew at that moment, even if he survived, I was never going to get my son back. I really felt sorry for the specialist, because he gave me all this medical jargon, and Shannon's mum was sitting next to me, and she said, "Roseann, what's he saying?" And I said, "He's saying that Azaan's dead." And I looked at him and I said, "That's what you're saying, isn't it?" And he said, "Yes." And he said, "We're going to have to withdraw life support. So now would be the time to round up all your family members and ask them to come and say goodbye." And he looked like he was sleeping. So I was watching machines as they were unplugging them. She said that I could stand behind him and I could stroke his hair. And then they switched off the life support, and it was the quickest 10 minutes of my life. And whilst they waited for his heartbeat to stop properly. Yeah.
Most of the time I'll just push it to the back of my mind, if I'm honest. And I'll just try to keep myself busy, and it always catches up, to be honest, sooner or later, whether it be a year, whether it be 6 months. It does come rushing back, and it does take a toll on me emotionally sometimes. There is so many other people that this sort of incident affects. It doesn't just happen with the victim himself.
Shannon witnessed all of it. She was 17 years old. She has nightmares and flashbacks. She has, in the past, self-harmed. She's attempted suicide twice. She doesn't go out alone. No job prospects, no education prospects. Shannon's been robbed, you know. She's been robbed of her freedom, of her peace of mind. And this affects her family. Shannon's mum, who arrived at the scene and gave CPR. I've got a great nephew, and he was too young to understand that AJ had been murdered. And we went to visit the grave, and he bought a stick and he put it inside the mud, and we said, well, what's that for? And he's like, that's to protect AJ. It has to stay there so the bad man can't hurt him anymore. So, you know, like a child's affected by that. AJ's friends who came to the hospital and passed out, seeing him connected to tubes.
The nurses, the doctors, everybody who tried to save life, and seeing how distraught they were, no one thinks about them. They think that's just their job. The perpetrator's family.
How do they feel knowing that their child murdered somebody? How do they feel they've lost their children? Yeah, they're incarcerated, but it's still a loss. And we talk about the ripple effect, you know, it goes on and on and on. It was hard for the boy who murdered my son because he's expecting me to go in there angry and shout, maybe want to attack him, and I didn't do anything. I wanted to help him, support him. After arranging to go and meet him, it takes about a year for that process. We finally had our meeting. I cried, we hugged. I told him that I forgave him. And the reason for that is the forgiveness is not for them, it's for me. And they took away the most precious thing. I refused to allow them to take me also. And I wanted to make a difference, and by being bitter, angry, twisted and resentful would make me no better than the way that they were living their life. Roseann, it's hard to thank the mother of the son I killed, but I thank you. Today has done something for me that I can't explain, but I can feel it in my heart. I don't know how you do it. Live without hate. I would never want another mother to go through the pain you have gone through. I don't know what my future holds for me, but I hope and pray I do things to help young boys out on the streets. I'm sorry that I took out the way that I used to live. My pain, my life, my struggling, my mental state and my aggression on your son. It sounds selfish and impulsive. That was the person I was. I didn't care about anything, even if I died or got stabbed. I wouldn't have even cared because I was so lost. But there is no excuse. And I think when we talk about ramifications again and ripple effects, he's clearly telling me in that letter before I met him that he's got trauma, mental health issues. So he's already had a bad start. You've just taken somebody's life, that's not going to traumatise you even more. So, yes, he did wrong. Yes, we can condemn him, but he's got his sentence. But unless we reach out and try and support and find a solution and help him heal, it's going to be repeated. And that's the whole reason why I wanted to meet all of them, to try and support and help them. When AJ passed away, when we were turning off life support, I remember saying to him, if it's the last thing I do, I'll make you famous. What I meant was that I'm going to leave a legacy for you and that it's not going to be in vain. So currently I work for the Violence and Exploitation Reduction Unit, which is called VERU. I'm a senior youth intervention specialist, so I work directly with young people, covering child sexual exploitation, child criminal exploitation, grooming by gang members, also young people who are at risk of serious youth violence, so I do one-to-one work with them.
Roseann's amazing. She's someone who's not afraid to talk about some of her own failings, some of the things that she wasn't aware of, you know, what she's learned on the job now. If she had known that then, that could have potentially, you know, saved AJ's life.
So the Veru like to call me expert by experience. So in layman's terms, that's lived experience. And I think that, yes, there are many professionals that are out there and they bring lots for young people and communities. But I have a saying that real recognises real. And I think that that has more effects and more impacts at reaching a young person.
This is someone who's lost a child to knife crime, but she still finds a place to be able to go out and spread the awareness through her own situation, some of the things that she wasn't aware of, about the ripple effect that knife crime has on people, family and communities. We believe in the Veru, we're a village. And like the old African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. Even Azaan, I didn't know him. That's somebody in my family. Do you know what I mean? And if we look at it like that, there'll be a lot more care. And that's where my passion comes from.
Because I only have to change the thought process of one young person, which in turn affects a whole future generation.
If your friends are carrying knives, help your friends and convince them that they don't need to carry a knife. Find somebody and speak to somebody and explain your problems to someone. Careful who you surround yourself as well. Like, you can surround yourself in the wrong crowd and quickly fall into it. Very quickly you can go in real deep and you ain't coming back out.
It goes back to AJ, isn't it? Every day is for him. It not being in vain and preventing that travesty happening to another family.
There is another way, because in that split second, when you stab someone, yeah, that's your life gone. Your life is gone and it doesn't need to be that way. So drop the knife. Just drop the knife and speak to somebody. We're all one community, we are a village. And we need to help raise these children and safeguard these children.
I can't change everything. I can't give you a solution and all the knife crime will change in the whole world or in our country. But what I can do is be that pebble that you throw in the sea that only makes a little splash. But if loads of us throw those pebbles, we'll have a tsunami and we'll have a solution.